We're just trying something. Okay, whatever. Today, the machine doesn't want to do something. Anyway, we'll be listening to the recording at a later moment. I knew Mina, or didn't know Mina. I just saw Mina together with her little sisters walking around when I was in seminary in France. And Mina's family was living there. And I had no clue that I would marry Mina's uncle. Okay, so Mina is my niece now. And it's a big privilege because Mina and the whole family are very, very special people. And well, it's my husband's family, so you understand they're very special. So we're very happy that Mina is here with us this evening and is going to share some interesting things. Mina lives in Stockholm, Sweden. She is a sluge there. And I think the Scandinavian countries are more closer in the way it works like the Dutch one. So I'm very curious to hear about that. But Mina, let's start at the beginning. Let's start to hear something about your upbringing, your childhood, how that was.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. Very honored and pleased to be with all of you tonight. And I do agree with you, Sarah. I think that the Scandinavian countries, and I mean, I was, I think, in Holland twice. There is some similarities, I think, in some things, definitely. And in any case, the beginning of my life is not in Scandinavia. It's in France, like Sarah mentioned. I was born in France in a little city right outside Paris called Brunois. And that's where I spent the first 18 years of my life, more or less. My parents, I mean, my father was also born in France, and my mother is American from New York. Of course, this is just, I wouldn't say that my father is French or that my mother is American. My grandparents are both on both sides from Russia and escaped Russia after World War II, and that's a whole other story of its own. And my father's parents came to Paris, and that's another amazing story. My grandmother came first alone. My grandfather was caught at the borders. He had to stay for 3 years in camps in Russia, in jail kind of, and miraculously was able to go out and to join my grandmother in Paris. And my grandparents on my mother's side, which is Rebbetsin Katzman's parents, came to America, I mean, through France as well, came to America. And that's where my mother was born. And my parents got married in New York and were sent by the Lubavitcher Rebbe back to Brunois, where my father was sent to work in a big, I mean, maybe back then it wasn't that big. Today it's a big yeshiva with 300 students from all over the world. And that's where my father has been working ever since. I was very lucky and blessed with everything I had in my childhood. I was born and raised in a very warm home with loving parents that educated us, and gave us everything you could ask for. Very quickly after I finished high school, I went to study in Israel for a year, and then came back to France, and I started to work there for a very short time in a Jewish school in Paris for just about 3 months. And I got engaged and married, and a year after we got married, came to Stockholm, Sweden, where we are shluchim for Chabad. And that's another amazing story of its own. So I don't know how much we'll be able to cover tonight, but I'll try my best to share with you what I've learned and what maybe you could be inspired from.
Okay, do you want first, before we continue about Stockholm itself, I mean, I can already tell the people who are listening that I have asked your mother also to come on an interview at my kitchen table. So I hope that's going to happen after Pesach. And then we will spend time discussing the whole miracles, what happened there with the yeshiva, where both your parents are kind of running this yeshiva of 300 boys. So you don't have to tell about that anymore, but we do want to hear from you as a daughter. What did you learn from your parents?
What did I learn from my parents? Oh, a hard question. I learned everything from my parents, more or less. I was prepared a bit to this question. Sarah sent me the questions before, so I had little time to think about it. I'll tell you, true that my parents are running this yeshiva with 300 boys, but the school that I went to was a school for girls called Bet Rivka. It was much smaller in my days than what it is today. Today it has over 700 students. I think in my days we were close to 200 maybe. And that school was run by my grandfather, my father's father. It's an amazing story of its own, how coming out of Russia, he was running this school full of Moroccan girls. But in any case, when I grew up in that school, it was kind of unique because it's a religious Chabad Lubavitch school. But I would say that 50 to 60% of the girls that went to that school were not from religious homes. And that was mainly because it had a dorm. The school had a dorm where girls were able to live there. So many kids with divorced parents or from difficult homes came because of the dorm. So they were able to live in the dorm and kind of have some kind of normal life. That dorm and that school was a bit of a blessing for these girls. So the class I went to, I think we were 15 girls, maybe 4 or 5 came from religious homes and the rest not. And that I think gave me a lot, and especially the approach of my parents to this whole situation. My parents always taught us that our home is welcome for all the girls from the dorm. Invite them for Shabbat, let them come to us. Let us show them what we have to show them, this beautiful warm home where we celebrate Shabbat. So from the beginning, from a very young age, I was taught this concept of inviting people home and being open to everybody and letting everybody come and learn and share with them this beauty of Yiddishkeit, of Judaism that we could share with them. And the same was with my father. My father is running this yeshiva, and running a yeshiva is, maybe my mother will tell you more about that, but just a bit from what I learned, running a yeshiva is a big budget, and my father has to fundraise. And by fundraising, he meets a lot of wonderful people, not necessarily from religious homes. And they would always come to our house. Our house was for Chagim, for Shabbat. And I think that gave me a lot. It prepared me in a way to coming here in Stockholm to this community that's very assimilated. Of course, they didn't prepare me completely. Surprises always happen, but I think it taught me a lot. So
that's very beautiful.
A bit of that's one thing that my parents taught me. Of course, there's many more things.
Yes, well, I know your parents now as in-laws, so we have spent many vacations in your house when my children were small and we needed to go on vacation. We would just give your mother a call and say, could we come with 5, 6 kids? And it was always fine. And we would spend our vacation in your house. So I know what you're talking about. It's absolutely amazing. And yes, for sure, you have gotten so much from them, but we will now continue your journey to Stockholm. I actually remember that you were in contact with us before you decided to go to Stockholm, to hear a little bit like, how does it go in the Netherlands and would it be about the same over there? I remember that, but you decided to go. So can you tell us how it was when you arrived in Stockholm?
Well, me and my husband, we get this question a lot, and just for the little joke, we came first to visit Stockholm for a few days, and that was in August. We were newly married then. We got married in January, and that was August after. We just came for a few days before we decided that, okay, we're coming permanently. And in August, the days are very long. Stockholm is sunny and it's warm and it's nice. It's really a beautiful city. We spent a few days. We visited the different synagogues. We met different people in the community, got a feeling a little bit about the city. And then we went back to New York. We will live then. Gave some thoughts about it, called our family, wonderful aunts and uncles that could give us good advice. Of course, davened and prayed that we should take the right decision. And then we decided that we would move here, and we came here in January. So that was, my husband always says, if we would come in January for the short visit, we would probably not come back, because January, Stockholm is dark, it's cold. There's maybe 4 or 5 hours of daylight. It's very, very depressing. It's a completely different city. I remember when we landed, it was just like, is it the same place? But slowly we learned that Stockholm could also be nice in the winter as well. It's not only the city, it's the people, the community that we work with, and that brings the light in the cold and dark days.
Okay, good. So now about the Jewish community over there, like how was that? And did you feel lonely? Were you the only religious person there?
Well, first of all, I'm not the only religious people. I may be the only Lubavitch first family, yes, but there are very few other religious families. Lonely, I don't know. It's being that I mean, I was blessed. I don't know if that is. I have 9 sisters, no brothers. We're a family of 10 girls, and I'm the first of them. So when I got married, I had 9 young sisters under me, all singles back then, that would enjoy coming on vacation to Stockholm. So I had very often visit. It was really a blessing. I don't know how I would have done it without that. Every vacation, I had one of my sisters or 2 of them coming for a visit, or every Chag or every Yom Tov. It was like 2 or 3 times a year at least. So we had the family always coming. I mean, of course, you do feel lonely sometimes, but that helped a lot, those visits. And France is not far either, and it's not expensive to travel to France. So we would travel once or twice a year to visit my family in France, and my husband's family is in Israel, which is also not too far. I mean, those days Israel is very far. It's impossible to travel, but I must say that we were welcomed by the community. Of course, there's always these issues, Chabad in the community, but overall we were the Orthodox rabbi back then when we came, welcomed us very nicely, and we always try to work with the community together and try to do things that they don't do, so there's no competing and stepping on each other. It kind of worked throughout the years. So being that we had this nice relationship with the community, I think it made things easier. And not talking about the community, I mean, I'm sure it's very similar to your communities. It's very organized and political, and there's parties, and I'm not talking about the community, I'm talking about the people. There's a lot of nice people, a lot of helpful people. We got to know amazing people, and I can't say that we feel lonely very often. It does happen, but especially today with WhatsApp and all these Zooms, we do feel in good company. Baruch Hashem. Okay,
that's great. Okay, now just for our information, is there like some Jewish history of the city of Stockholm that you want to share?
Well, the Jewish history of Stockholm, Sweden in general, is very short and poor, if I may say. Till this late 1700s, I think 1774, I think it is, Jews were not allowed to live in Sweden. So it's pretty recent Jewish population in Sweden. And the way Jews got permission to live in Sweden is that the king back then, his name was for sure some Carl Gustav number something. He needed, there was a certain Jew, I think, that lived in Germany. His name was Aaron Isaac. And he, if I remember correctly, he had a certain profession, I think it was the engraver, that the king in Sweden needed. He couldn't find it in Sweden, and he asked that Jew Aaron Isaac to come and settle in Sweden. although it was forbidden. He told him, I will give you special permission, because he needed his profession. So that the Jew Aaron Isaac agreed at one condition, that he could bring with him 10 Jewish families, so he should have a minyan of Jews. And those were the first Jews that came to Sweden. Back then, it was still very, they got the permission and that was it. And then there was a long process, and it took a long time till it became completely permitted for Jews to move to Sweden and to settle in Sweden. So it's pretty recent, and there was never a very strong Orthodox community in Sweden till after the war. It was always a very, very assimilated community, and very few. It never grew too much. After the Holocaust, a lot of Jews, Holocaust survivors from all over Europe, came to Sweden. And at that point, especially in the south of Sweden, in Lund and Malmö, small religious communities were built. They didn't last too long, because people eventually moved to other countries, to Israel, to the States, or whatever they were. But many of them, of course, stayed in Sweden. So there is a large part of the community today who are children and grandchildren of Holocaust survivors. I don't think that there are today, I can't say for sure, but there's definitely not many. There are very few, but not many Jews that are direct descendants from the first Jews that came to Sweden, because these Jews assimilated. So the Jews that form most of the community today is, I think, children and grandchildren of Holocaust survivors that came after the war. Sweden was neutral during the war, so they were not really affected by the war. But I mean, of course, they were affected in some way, but not in. But after the war, many Jews came, and that's what most of the. And then there's, of course, Israelis and Russians and all kinds of Jews from all over, like everywhere. But I think the main part is today. I think in Sweden, in the whole of Sweden, there should be somewhere between 10 to 15,000 Jews. There's 4 communities: Stockholm, Gothenburg, and Malmö, and Helsingborg, which is a very, very small community. Stockholm has probably somewhere between 5 to 10,000 Jews. It's hard to say exactly. I think official members is 5,000, but then there's people that are not members, of course.
Okay, so it's a small Jewish country with a small Jewish community, but still you are there and you are major. You are very important, and they need you. Okay, so.
Well, it's funny when you say they need you. When we came for a visit in August, so we met the president of the community. That was the president back then. So we met her in the Jewish Center. We were young and innocent then. And she says, you're more than welcome to come. It's a democratic country. Whoever wants could come. But you should just know that you're not going to have much to do. We have everything a Jewish community needs. We have a school. We have an old age home. We have a synagogue. We have a cemetery. So really, I wish you all my best luck, but I'm afraid that you're not going to have much to do. I must say that she was a bit wrong. There's a lot to do, and I wish we had more people helping us, and so we should be able to do more. But there's a lot to do. Oh,
okay. Well, I totally understand. So what were the first things you started once you arrived?
When we arrived, I think the first thing we focused on is to getting to know people. We went to visit a lot of people like we invited people to us. It was really trying to get to know the community that we arrived to. Another thing that kept us busy in the beginning, Sorry. Is to learn the language. And you might think that it's not really part of our work, but looking back to it now, it's a great tool, and it helped us a lot in our work, that we spent the first few months learning the language, so then you can relate to the people in a very, very different way. So that took some time. We went to school and learned it properly. And so it was getting to know people and small classes, small Torah classes, all from our little apartment that we had back then. We had an amazing relationship from the beginning, from one of there's 2 Orthodox synagogues in Stockholm. So one of them was very close to our first apartment. And when we came, they're just the person that was the Baal Koreh that read from the Torah every week, he was getting older, and they had a hard time finding someone to replace him. And my husband is quite good at that. So that's how we came into that shul. And since then, we've had an amazing collaboration with that shul and work very good with them. So it was pretty much that shul, small Torah classes, and getting to know people and learning Swedish and trying to figure out where is it that we live, going to the store and trying to figure out what is flour, what is sugar. I remember all these mistakes that we made in the beginning. So that was pretty much in the beginning.
I hope you figured out before you put in the flour that it was flour and not salt.
That we did. In those days, you didn't have iPhones where you could Google Translate, so it was fun. You make some mistakes, you learn. But the first big, if you could say, everything is big, but the first big event that we did, we came in January. The next Hanukkah, that was my husband was very firm about that, and that was because another story, but very firm that we're going to have a public lighting like many Chabad houses have around the world. And I remember the first time we mentioned it to the people in Stockholm, they were like, they looked at us as we said that we're going to, I don't know, it was just like the Swedish Jews are so not used to show that they're Jewish in the streets. And here you're going to tell them that you're going to light a menorah out in the square. It was just, no, you don't do that in Sweden. And people were trying to disconvince us, and like even good friends, like nobody's gonna come, don't bother, don't do it. But we were stubborn, and we did it. We had an ice menorah, so that was like what we tried to do to make it exciting and inviting. And I remember it was a nice crowd of, I think, 200 people the first year. And what's amazing is you just saw the joy of the people. Finally, we could show that we're Jewish in the streets. You really felt it, that feeling. And by now, now it's 20 years later, but even like 3, 4, 5 years later, I remember one year we came out a bit late with the date and where we're going to do it. It's already people calling us, like, when is the lighting? Where is the lighting? It became already like a Swedish tradition, kind of. Like, it doesn't go without doing it. So you see how quick changes happen. Not always, but sometimes. So even though they had a tradition of hiding for so many years, it's something that I think as Jews, we all need all over.
Yeah, I think that's very similar to the Dutch Jews. In Amsterdam, the first public menorah, that was probably 30 years ago or more, 40. Yeah, probably between 35 and 40. And everybody was like very nervous about it. But by now, in all the big cities, there are public lightings. And as you say, people check beforehand when it's going to be and make sure that they put it in their calendar, etc. So here we have some similarities. Okay, so the big menorah lighting in the square by you, the big square.
Yeah.
And then I guess you started rolling.
Yeah, and then slowly we got a small office space by a friend of ours where we were able to, it was mainly my husband working from there, and then we moved to another apartment, and then we got, I think 3 years after we came, we got the office in the Jewish center, in the Gemeinde, I don't know how you call it in Dutch. So that's where all the Jewish offices the Jewish organizations have their offices, like Keren Kayemet and Keren Hayesod and Vitzo. And so we got an office space there, which was very good. It's the same building where the Jewish school is and the kosher store. And so we were able to work from there. It's like a great place because that's where you meet Jews. And we were able to rent the lunchroom for big events or for bigger classes. So we were there up to, I would say maybe 5 or 6 years ago. when they decided to sell that building and to rebuild and to reorganize the whole Jewish infrastructure in Stockholm, and they weren't able to offer us the same space in the new building. So that's another miracle of its own. We were kind of stuck without office space and without anywhere to work from. And it was really getting close to the date where we have to move out of the Jewish center. And I was walking out of the apartment where we live till today, going through the garden. And at the end of the garden of our little house, there were offices. I never knew all the years what they were. And as I'm walking, I see in the windows full of boxes, like they're called like moving boxes that people have when they move. And I'm like, oh, maybe they're moving out. Maybe it could be something, you know. I was just like, maybe. So we called right away the board of the building where we lived, and they told us, yeah, it's offices of a company. They're moving out, and we're looking for new tenants. So if you want, you could come, and we'll show you the place, and you'll see if it fits your needs. So we went to see it, and it was like really the perfect place with a porch for a sukkah and nice big size, and a place like not only an office but a place to have Shabbos meals and Yom Tov activities and Sunday school and everything. It was really, and the fact
and
that
a nice kitchen,
Baruch Hashem, and close to home, which is most of the time a big plus. So it was really it happened out of the, like really a miracle. And since then we're here, and Baruch Hashem, growing in many different ways. Another interesting story besides for the lighting is it might be similar to some of your, also to the Holland traditions, I'm not sure. The first year we lived in a different apartment, and that building had a roof, and we were able to build the sukkah. It was a small building with 8 apartments, so it was not a big deal to get a permission to build the sukkah there. But then the second year we moved to our next apartment, and that's a huge building with 100 and something apartments. So like I think 2 months before Pesach, my husband went over to the board. Everything is a board. I'm sure it's the same by you. To ask for permission. The house has a big, huge garden that was, now they rebuilt it. It's nice, but in those days it was very plain. Nobody would even use it. And he asked if we would be able to build the sukkah in the garden for just a week of Sukkot. And the head of the board told him, we're very sorry, being that the garden belongs to everybody. We have to ask for permission, everybody, and we have a yearly meeting for all the members in the house, and that yearly meeting is in March or in April, and we can't give you permission before we ask permission by the yearly board meeting. So for that year, it's impossible for us to give you permission to build a sukkah in the garden. My husband tried arguing, we'll leave it open to everybody, it's a public. There was nothing to talk about. We have to ask permission by the yearly meeting. And the yearly meeting was way after Sukkot, so now there was nothing to do. So what are we doing? We don't have a sukkah, so we're thinking back and forth. And at the end, we decided that we're going to rent a truck that is open in the back and build the sukkah on the back of the truck and park it right in front of our house. And we'll have a sukkah in the street right outside our house. I think the boards, they were kind of shocked. They didn't expect that we would be so stubborn. And in general, the people, I mean, we invited people for all the meals of Sukkot in that special sukkah on the truck. It was an attraction. People were like, you're really going to have a sukkah on the street? And one day we brought it to the Jewish school, and all the kids came in and shook the lulav. It was like really an amazing experience. It really showed the people, again, this pride of being Jewish, and not, it's not because the board said, no, we'll find a way to have our sukkah. And of course, the next year, we never thought of Sukkot in April, or I think it was in April or in May, I'm not sure. We never think about Sukkot then, but we had to. And we sent in a demand, and there was a vote, and we had a majority, Baruch Hashem, and they told us that till anybody complains, you don't have to re-ask every year. You have permission to build it, and nobody ever complained. We always make sure to invite all the neighbors and give them some cake and some lechaim, sweets like that. So it was never an issue. Now we have the sukkah and the Bet Chabad, so we don't have to ask for permission anymore. But that was another
Amazing
Amazing
story.
story.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Because I want to tell the people, yeah, we say in Dutch, de appel valt niet ver van de boom. Can you understand that, Mina?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
You have the same in...
In Swedish, no, but I think it's in English, no?
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
I think so.
Well,
Or in
so
Hebrew,
mother,
I
so
don't know.
daughter. So I was telling that we used to go on vacation to France, to Mina's family. When my kids grew up and they wanted to do something else, we called Mina in Sweden. Maybe when she's not at home, maybe we could go to her house. So that's what happened a few years ago in the summer vacation. We flew to Sweden and we were in Mina's house, using her place, going into her Beit Chabad, looking all over. So the same what her mother did for us when my kids were younger, Mina has done for me when my kids grew older, and that's quite amazing, as you can imagine, just using your house with everything that's there. So I just wanted to say that.
It was our pleasure. It was nice to know that the house is in good hands.
Okay, we didn't leave a mess.
No, not at all.
That I make sure. Okay. Now, so you said that when you came, or the lady from the community said, we have everything here, but you saw that there was plenty what to do. So, like, can you tell more about what all the things are that you're running at the moment, or let's say the moment, I mean, in general, not per se Corona time?
Corona times, yeah. Corona times is interesting times. Although Stockholm is kind of, Sweden in general, I think, is the country that was least restricted. But we won't talk about Corona. It's getting. But in general, it's a lot of classes for adults in the evenings. Then we have a Hebrew school, not on Sunday. We have it on Monday and Wednesday afternoon. Kids here finish school early. And usually when they finish school, they go to fritids, it's called in Sweden. So instead of going to fritids, they have the possibility twice a week to come to us. It's an amazing program that grew a lot. And that's something that I really, really enjoy. It's twice a week. And kids come and they learn Hebrew and they learn about the Jewish holidays, about the Parashat HaShavua, the weekly Torah portion, all kinds of amazing things. Usually it's on Monday and Wednesdays, and on Wednesdays we have close to 20 children, and it's from 2 to 5. So when I come home after 5, I'm very tired. So when Sarah asked me about this Wednesday evening, first I told her Wednesday evening, no, don't talk to me Wednesday evening. But this week is vacation in Sweden, so there's no FTs. So that's why I agreed on that week. So that's another thing that we have. We have, of course, Mommy and Me. People here are on maternal leave for over a year when they have a baby, and they're looking for all kinds of activities to do. So we offer that.
And also a little bit, because here Mommy and Me is very known.
Is what?
It's not known here.
It's not known?
No.
Okay. Well,
can you tell us what you do, what it is?
It's I do it once a week, sometimes twice. I do it from 10 to 12. Mothers could come with their babies, and babies could be between newborn till a year, because they don't start preschool before they're a year because their parents are home with them. And there's coffee and cake for the mothers and some fruits for the babies. And we always have like a little circle time. I mean, the babies are really babies, but I try to sing some songs from the morning prayers, like Modani and Shema, some songs in Hebrew, and then it's more, and then the babies just play and eat and have fun. And I try to spend time with the mothers, talk about Jewish education, talk about the challenges of Jewish education, about education in general. If there's a holiday coming by, so I'll maybe say something about the Jewish holiday and like how you could teach it to your children, and sometimes we'll share different ideas. So it's 2 hours. People come and go whenever, it's hard to plan with little babies, so they come and they go when they want. And what's nice is that usually it's on Thursdays, and Thursdays we also have lunch and learn at 12. people come and have kosher lunch, and there's a shiur from my husband about the Parashat HaShavua, the weekly Torah portion. So a lot of times the mothers from the mommy and me stay for the lunch as well. So it makes it like a nice, they come to shmooze and then they have lunch and then they go home.
Wow, that sounds really, really exciting.
Yeah,
I would love to come.
Oh. With pleasure.
With my grandchildren.
That would be lovely. So that's, and then of course there's all the holiday programs for adults, for children. We have a camp in the summer. We have a dream of opening a preschool, but we didn't get there yet. It's legally very complicated. And the big stop was the place that we're renting, the Bet Chabad. The owners don't want a preschool. I don't know why. They never got, and you must have the permission of the owners in order to have a preschool in the place. But maybe one day, Bezrat Hashem, and then I'll call Sarah again to get good ideas and tips after all 8 years of experience.
If the rules in Stockholm for preschool are the same like here for daycare, I can tell you it's very complicated.
It is very complicated.
It's a full-time job, just that. So you will need to hire someone to help you with it.
Yeah. I started the process and then I got stopped when the owner didn't give us permission. There was nothing to talk about, and I did get help. And just to tell you, if you want to know a bit about the Swedish mentality, the culture of this fear of religion, I'm not talking about Jews now, I'm talking about Swedes in general. Swedes are, I think it's one of the most non-religious countries in the world. Religion is almost a dirty word. You believe in God? Like, you're really weird. So the first meeting I had with the people of the city hall after I sent in all the applications, you have to describe what kind of preschool and what kind of pedagogy you're gonna use and the whole background. And I worked so hard on it with the professional that helped me. And I come and there's these two older ladies from the city that have to interview me. And I'm sure they're gonna ask me about how I'm gonna run my preschool. And, they wanna make sure that this preschool is gonna be good for their children. And of course I described that it will be a preschool with a Jewish background. And I described it as being bilingual, Hebrew and Swedish and so on and so forth. The first question they asked me, and with a very, are you aware that you must take into your preschool all children, Jews and non-Jews? And that's the law. I knew about that law. So of course I said, yes, I am aware and everybody is welcome to the preschool. But it was very, very, I remember I was very, is that the first thing you're concerned about? And it was pretty much the only thing they were concerned about. They didn't care about all the hard work that I put into the whole. They're very, there is this distance from you see it, you feel it all the time. So they're kind of,
very scared. Okay. But one day, Mitzvah Hashem, you'll get there. You'll get there. Okay, but talking about school, can you tell us what your children do? Like, is there a religious school?
There is a community school that's run, it's not really run by the community, it's run by a board of parents. It's called Hillel School, and that school has a preschool for kids from 1 to 6, and then it has a school from grade pre-first grade, it's called Förskoleklassen, till 6th grade when the kids are about 12 and 13. Our children went to the preschool, they went to the school not up to 6th grade, it depends on which kids. Some of them went till the end of 3rd grade, 4th grade. The longest we were able to drag them was till the end of 5th grade. And then it gets very hard because it's not a religious school and they don't feel comfortable anymore with, when you're little, you all do the same things. You play with dolls and you play with cars and it kind of works. But when you get to that age 10, 11, 12, it's a completely different world and it gets very, very hard for the children socially. And besides for the fact that we want to teach them everything we want to teach them and the days in schools get longer and then you have no more time to teach them Torah and Chumash and Gemara and anything else that it could be. So after that, being that in Sweden, you are not allowed to homeschool, it's illegal, you must send your children to school. So we don't have much of a choice and we must send them away. But again, we're really blessed to have my parents, which are young in spirit, definitely. And we're able to, our first 3 ones lived by then. And my kids speak French because that's what I speak to them. So it's kind of easier for them to integrate the schools there when they come. And then, every kid, they're all different. So some of them stay longer, some of them stay shorter, some of them after 3 years, they move on to somewhere else. As of now, we Baruch Hashem have 9 children. The 5 oldest ones are already away from home, all over the world. One is in New York, one is in Israel, one is in Antwerp, not too far from you, together with Sarah's son in the yeshiva there. And 2 of them are in France. And then the 4 younger ones are in school here. So yeah, it's the biggest challenge. I would say kosher food and all these things are really easy challenges, but having to send your kids away so young is hard. Although, yeah, I send them to my parents, so it makes it for sure easier, and you could communicate much easier. You could speak to them every day, and all these things make it easier for sure, but it's never easy. It's always hard and a challenge, but Baruch Hashem, they're all happy where they are, and they could come home quite often, so that makes it also but it always came kind of from them. They were always, okay, it's time for me to go, and that also made it easier. Our last one that left this in the beginning of this year, last year he was in 5th grade, and I really wanted him to stay another year at home. He didn't want to stay in 5th grade. He really didn't want, but I kind of forced him. Some ways he was helped by the fact that in March, Corona came, and he kind of didn't really finish his year in the school here. So it was a very short year. And then in the beginning of this year, he left to France. So yeah, that's for our children in school.
Yeah, that is for shluchim, like you living in a place where you have no real Jewish education. It's very a big challenge. But as you say, if you know that your children are happy where they are, then it does give you, some peace of mind. Like, your kid is happy where the child is. And if you would force a child to stay in your place where it's not happy, then it also doesn't work. So,
right.
And yeah, I have met many of your kids in your parents' home. I see a question here. Who are your parents? That's Esti and Mendel Gurevich. Mina is the oldest.
I don't see the questions. I'm sorry.
No, in the chat. There was a question in the chat.
Okay.
So, okay. Now, I had some more questions, but I don't know if we maybe already kind of heard all of them, like something that made a huge impression on you. Was there anything you wanted to say about that?
In what way?
In your work, like maybe that's you got to the conclusion, that wow, this is the reason I'm here, or like and something that happened that made you feel that way.
I mean, such moments happen all the time, kind of every day. Not every day, but very often you have such a moment. It could be simple stories, it could be wow stories, but it's mostly those simple stories, the phone call. Just a small example, now Purim with Corona and many older people that are, I'll tell you 2 simple stories from Purim that just happened. So we decided that many people the older people really try to stay home. So many of them are isolated and very lonely. So we tried to keep in touch with them. And for Purim, we decided to send out, it was a whole organization, but to send out 200 nice mishluchei manot, those Purim presents that we send to 200 people that are older or lonely or live alone. And we got 30 volunteers, and that was really amazing to see. I think out of the 30 volunteers, there were 5 people that never ever came to any of our activities. But here, when we asked them to come and volunteer and give their time for others, they came. It was really nice and amazing to see that. So this week we got many feedback and emails from different people how happy they were. And one of them was an older lady that was very involved with many. She was a principal of the Jewish junior high, very involved in the community. She sent us a thank you, how she was very, very happy. And she spoke to a friend of hers that was also grew up in the schools and in the camps of the community and everything. And how, so she celebrated Purim many, many, many times. And she was in all the, youth organizations of the community and everything. And in the package that we sent some food and some wine and a nice Megillah with the story of Purim and some explanations and everything. And this friend of hers told her how the first time in her life, she really understood the story of Purim and the whole background behind it, although she grew up in it. So when you get such emails, it really, okay, I understand a bit better why I'm here for, even though like this president were saying, we have everything, but you see here. And another nice story is also happened on Purim. On Purim, we had a small Zoom for adults at 12 to make kind of a meal of Purim together with the people of the shuls. And the actual Orthodox rabbi of the community now, he grew up here in Sweden. He grew up in a non-religious family. And when we came here then he was, I don't know, a teenager. He was slowly becoming religious. He went to Israel to study. He got a degree of a rabbi, a smicha. And he worked as a rabbi in the States for a few years, and he just came back to Stockholm a few months, could it be a year ago already? Yeah, he came right before COVID, I don't remember. But just a few months ago, he came officially as the rabbi in Stockholm. And when we started our first Purim parties, when we came here, he plays drums, this rabbi. And in those days, he was, I don't know, probably 18 or something like that. So he and a friend that plays keyboard, they would play at our Purim parties together. He would drum and the friend would play keyboard. And they made the Purim parties very feilach, as we say in Yiddish, for those of you that understand, very happy, and they really played nicely. And by the Zoom, he told us a story. I never heard that story before. It's a story that goes back 15 years ago. He was describing how after one party of Purim, like many people on Purim, he had drank a bit more than usual, and he was not sure that he could go home with all his drum set and manage it on his own. So he came over to my husband. He's like, what should I do? So my husband said, don't worry, I'll order you a taxi. And we had two students from the yeshiva in Brunois that were with us for Purim to help us. He said, I'll send you the two students with you. They'll help you pack the drum in the taxi, and they'll go with you home, and then they'll come back. So like this, you have company. Fine, so the taxi comes and they pack the drum set and they sit in the car. So it's him, he was a non-religious teenager back then, with the two yeshiva students that had also apparently said a few l'chaims by the party. And the taxi driver is a real Swedish guy. And they start driving, and the two students from the yeshiva, they start singing Jewish song the whole way. It was a 20-minute drive. And he was this shy Swedish Jewish boy, and he was like, it's crazy to sing Jewish songs in the taxi. But he, and like slowly but surely, he became comfortable, and he was describing just last week by this Purim party how this gave him this amazing feeling, how sitting in the taxi late at night, driving through the streets of Stockholm and just singing Jewish songs in the car. He really came home like very inspired, and that was probably he had probably many such moments, but one of his moments that helped him choose this way of becoming religious. But the way he described it was really this feeling of Jewish pride. So all these small stories of simple people, all along the way, you get them every once in a while. I think that's what helps you get the energy and continue this important work. Of course, with the blessings and of the Rebbe and the inspiration that we get from the Rebbe all the time, that's what we grew up with. That's what inspires us to really want to always help and give and just share this amazing heritage that we've got with other people, other Jews.
Wow, that's really amazing. Very, very beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay, we don't have much time left. So what else would you like to share with us?
What else would I like to share with you? Let me see if there's something that I wrote down.
Because otherwise, if you don't have, I wanted to say something about your mother-in-law, Aleha Shalom, but first finish what you want to say.
I'll tell you something very, very short. You're talking about these moments that inspire you. We just finished celebrating Purim, and we're getting ready to celebrate Pesach. So a few days before Purim, I have not my youngest sister, the one before my youngest is on Shlichut in Barbados, the other side of the planet. And she had a Zoom Hamantash bake with the ladies in her community. And she asked me if I could come to the Zoom and share the meaning why we eat Hamantash and what's behind it. So I'm not going to give you again the whole class that I had there, but the whole idea of Purim is that Purim, the miracles were kind of hidden miracles. When you read the story of Purim, it doesn't look like there was a miracle there. In fact, the name of Hashem is not mentioned in the entire Megillah. It was a hidden miracle. It looks like it was, a coincidence. But of course, we all know that Hashem was very present and it was a huge miracle. And soon we're going to celebrate Pesach, and Pesach is the open miracles, the opening of the sea and the going out of Egypt and the 10 plagues. These are all supernatural miracles. Everybody, when you see these miracles and when you experience them, you can't deny that it's a miracle. And I think that it's, many times when you tell these stories, especially to children, of the opening of the sea or the 10 plagues, they ask us, why don't we have miracles nowadays? Maybe true that we don't have such open miracles, and I think we do, but we definitely have those hidden miracles, those like we experience during Purim. And I think what's important is to realize them and to realize all the gifts that we have in our lives. It's not always easy. It's for everybody challenging times that we are all going through. But I think in order to go through them, we have to try our best and work hard on that, to see the miracles that we have in our life, to see the miracles that we have in our communities, in our families, and be thankful for them, and try our best to inspire more Jews and make Judaism more available and accessible to everybody.
Thank you very much. That's very, very beautiful said, and a very good message. I think we can all learn from that. You had more to say, or shall I?
No, I think I'm gonna let you.
Okay, so I really wanted, I asked Mina the phone number of her oldest sister-in-law. Her Mina's husband is Chaim. And when Mina got married, so I met her older sister, and I really wanted her also to come in a Zoom at my kitchen table, but she's very busy and she doesn't see right now the time. Why did I want especially her? Because I would like to mention Mina's mother-in-law. Mina's mother-in-law was a very, very special woman. And no, I never met her, and she died very young. But the legacy that she left to the world is very, very special. And I really wanted to tell a little bit about her, because I did read the books that were published after she passed away. She passed away a few hours after the birth of her 10th child. That was in 92, right? Yeah. And it was a big shock when she passed away. Her name is Mina Greisman, and it was a big shock in the Jewish world, especially in the Chabad world, because she and her husband were one of the first shluchim that came to Israel. They were sent by the Rebbe to Israel in 1967 with a group a group of young couples to build up the country, to bring Judaism all over the country. And she was one of the leading figures in this whole going on. And actually, when this group of shluchim arrived in Israel in 76, they were invited to come to the house of the president. And she was the one giving a speech there and telling the president, through the president, the whole country, what their mission was and what their hope was for the mission that the Rebbe gave them in Israel. There is actually a lot to say. I wanted to read a little bit about it, but time is short. She wasn't like someone who was just in the spiritual world. Like, she was very spiritual, like her knowledge and the way she was able to give it over to the ladies she was teaching was absolutely fantastic, because all her classes were recorded, and after she passed away, it was printed in books. And I bought those books, or I got one new book was given out at your wedding, actually. And the way she spoke and the way she was able to transmit messages, deep messages, in such a practical, easy way that even I could understand, like for simple people to understand, it was absolutely amazing. But what she did a lot as well, besides let's say the religious information, she was so practical. So she had articles that are published in one of the books that's like Secrets of My Freezer. And the next article is Secrets of My Freezer #2, and Secrets of My Freezer #3, or some more of my secrets. And there she gave those ideas that I, as a housewife, have implemented over the years. When I read it, I thought, oh, these are such practical and easy ideas. I could use that. I could try it out, and they work. So there's a lot to say, but time is up. There is a website. I just forgot to write down the name of the website, but you can you just Google Mina Greisman, and you will come up and find her books. You can actually, on the website that's made for her, you can actually read the books online, and it's chapters, so it's very easy to read. You can just read one page at a time. And I think that she, looking down from heaven and watching you and her oldest son and the rest of the family, she is having lots of nachas. And let's hope that Mashiach will actually come very, very soon, and we'll all be together, and we'll celebrate Pesach this year in Yerushalayim.
Amen.
Let's pray for that. Thank you so much, Mina. It was so nice to have you here. And I am very happy to give the word to Opperrabijn Jacobs.
Goedenavond.
Goedenavond.
We gaan het vanavond hebben over, niet over Pesach,